I never thought a single conversation could change the way I saw myself, my marriage, and everything I thought love was supposed to be. It started on a quiet night after dinner, no raised voices, no tension in the air, just the kind of silence that usually means comfort. But under the surface, something was shifting. I could feel it before I even knew what it was. My husband, Daniel, rolled onto his side and looked at me. His eyes lingered too long, like he was searching for words that didn't want to be spoken. And then, in a voice so soft I almost didn't catch it, he whispered, "There's something I can't stop thinking about." At first, I thought he was going to confess some secret, something ordinary, like stress at work or maybe even a fear he hadn't shared. But instead, he told me something that made the air leave my lungs. He admitted he wanted to see me with someone else. Not just imagine it, not just dream about it, but actually see it. I thought he was joking. My laugh caught in my throat, but his face didn't change. Calm. Steady. Serious. My mind spiraled. Was I not enough? Had I failed him somehow? I'd been loyal, loving, and patient through the rough patches. But then I remembered the nights he'd pulled away, the excuses of stress, the times I felt invisible lying next to the man I married. Maybe this was his way of telling me something deeper. That night in the shower, his words wouldn't leave me. I kept hearing them over and over, and instead of anger, something else crept in, curiosity. The thought terrified me, but it also made my pulse race in a way I hadn't felt in years. The next morning, nothing was said. Daniel made coffee, folded laundry, hummed along to the radio like nothing had happened. But for me, everything had changed. I couldn't stop thinking about what it would mean, what it would feel like to be seen that way, not just by another man, but through Daniel's eyes. A week later, I asked him if he had been serious. He nodded without hesitation. He said it wasn't about losing interest in me, quite the opposite. He said watching me, even imagining me in that way, made him feel closer to me, not further apart. His honesty shook me. I didn't know if I was strong enough for this, or if I even wanted it. But I couldn't deny the way my body responded just hearing him say it. From there, the conversation between us shifted. We started talking about things we had buried for years, desires, fears, fantasies neither of us had ever dared to share. It felt like unlocking a door in our marriage that had always been there but had never been opened. At first, I told him no. I couldn't imagine crossing that line. But I also didn't slam the door shut. I was caught in between, teetering on a precipice, knowing one step forward could change everything. And then one night, with trembling hands and a racing heart, I created a simple profile. No photos, just words. I thought nothing would come of it, but to my surprise, replies came flooding in. Most were crude, dismissible. But then one stood out. His name was Michael. Respectful. Calm. Patient. My husband read every message with me. It wasn't just my secret, it was ours. The night we met Michael, my nerves were on fire. I expected fear, maybe even guilt, but what I felt was power. Daniel sat silently in the background, watching, his eyes never leaving me. I didn't belong to Michael. I belonged to that moment, and, in some strange way, I still belonged to Daniel. When it ended, I waited for the crash of guilt. It never came. Instead, Daniel pulled me close later that night with a kind of hunger I hadn't felt from him in years. He whispered that he had never seen me more alive. That was the moment I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. A month later, there was another. His name was Richard, a widower. Gentle. Kind. With him, the experience was tender, almost sorrowful. I told Daniel every detail, and instead of jealousy, he only listened, asking questions, hungry not for control but for connection. The third time, it wasn't planned. A stranger named Adam at a coffee shop made me laugh, made me feel noticed. I told Daniel about him, expecting anger. Instead, he said words I'll never forget. If it feels right, I trust you. That trust was heavier than any chain, binding me to him in ways I didn't fully understand. And then came the fourth Ethan. Bold, confident, brash. Everything the others weren't. I almost walked away, but something inside me wanted to test the edge, to push further. Daniel didn't stop me. His only question was, "Do you still feel like mine?" And I told him the truth. Yes. But more than that, I felt like my own. By then, something inside our marriage had shifted completely. It wasn't about secrecy or betrayal. It wasn't about labels. We didn't call it open. We didn't call it cheating. It was something only we understood, a private language between us built on silence, trust, and unspoken desire. And then one night, Daniel asked me if I'd ever be ready to let it all happen at once. His eyes didn't waver. His voice didn't tremble. He was asking me to take the step we both knew couldn't be undone. I looked at him, my heart racing, and whispered, "Are you sure?" He nodded. It happened on a Saturday night. No ceremony. No fanfare. Just quiet understanding as they arrived, one by one. They weren't friends, not even equals. They were there for me. But he was the reason I let it happen. Daniel never touched, never joined. He only watched, his eyes heavy, his hands clenched, but his presence unshakable. With each moment, I felt myself becoming someone new, unfiltered, untamed, alive. I wasn't theirs. I wasn't even fully his. I was simply me. And through it all, my eyes kept finding his. Searching. Questioning. Loving. I saw pain, I saw pride, I saw something deeper than either of us could put into words. When it was over, there was silence. They left without ceremony, without promises. And it was just us again, Daniel and me. Husband and wife. But not the same as before. He looked at me like I was someone both familiar and unknown. Finally, he whispered, "You're beautiful when you're like that." In that moment, I realized something. We weren't broken. We weren't drifting apart. We were transforming, stepping into a truth neither of us could have predicted. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt alive.